Welcome back to the VIEZU Workshop. I'm James, and today I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to correctly and safely install a supercharger pulley upgrade. But before we get into it, there's some important information you need to know. Firstly, the engine must not be rotated anti-clockwise during the fitting process, as this could cause damage to the engine. And secondly, the engine must be locked by either the flywheel or using the center crank bolt when removing or fitting the crank pulley Torx bolts. Tools required. You'll need a 7mm flexible driver or flathead screwdriver for the removal of the intake system, a 10mm socket for the removal of the one bolt holding the induction pipe to a bracket, a laser 3757 supercharger belt removal tool, which you can find at this link. The link is in the description, and there are different tools on the market, but I've found this one the easiest to use. You'll need a Torx T50 socket and ratchet or wrench for undoing and retightening the 6 lower pulley bolts. It's recommended that the removal of the stock crank pulley and the installation of the upgraded VIEZU crank pulley is carried out from underneath the vehicle, and for ease of access and safety reasons, this should be done in a workshop on a suitable vehicle ramp. Remove the intake pipe from the front of the engine by loosening the 2 7mm Jubilee clips on the side of the Y-shaped intake pipe, followed by loosening the remaining Jubilee clip on the throttle body. Please note, the intake pipe can become weak or fragile over time, so take care when removing and refitting as to not overly bend or stress this part. Using the auxiliary belt removal tool, turn the tensioner anti-clockwise to slacken the tension on the supercharger belt, allowing it to be removed from the supercharger pulley. Release the tension on the auxiliary belt removal tool once the belt has been removed from the supercharger pulley. Remove the under tray from the vehicle to allow easier access to the crank pulley. It is advisable to do this on a vehicle ramp or lift. Hold center crankshaft bolt, 24mm in size, in position with a large ratchet or lever bar and socket to ensure the engine does not turn while removing the 6 Torx T50 size bolts that hold the supercharger crank pulley in position. Remove the 6 Torx T50 size bolts and remove the pulley. If the original supercharger crank pulley is silver in colour, then you can move along to step 7. If the original supercharger crank pulley is black in colour, then continue on to step number 6. If your pulley is black in colour, you will need to fit the spacer provided between the crank and the pulley. Fit the new supercharger belt around the supercharger before installing the new crank pulley. Install the new silver uprated supercharger crank pulley, ensuring that any required spacers are placed in position behind the crank pulley at this time. Apply Loctite to the supercharger crank pulley bolts before fitting them to the vehicle. The recommended torque setting for the Torx bolts is 50 Nm. Using the auxiliary belt removal tool, turn the tensioner anti-clockwise to slacken the tension, allowing the new belt to be correctly positioned in the supercharger belt driveline. Release the tension on the auxiliary belt removal tool and remove the tool from the vehicle. Refit the under tray. Refit the intake pipe on the front of the engine, making sure to secure all the Jubilee clamps and taking care not to damage the section that fits over the throttle body when refitting. Hopefully that gives you a clearer understanding of how to install a supercharger crank pulley. And if you have any other questions, or if you'd like the team here at VIEZU to undertake the work for you, please don't hesitate to give us a call on 01789 774444 or email us at info@viezu.com.